Hi everyone, let's talk about conditionals. But first, what are conditionals? Conditionals are sentences that are made up of two clauses. One dependent clause that expresses a condition and a main clause that expresses the result of this condition. Now in this video we will only talk about the zero and first type conditional. Let's begin with the zero type conditional. This conditional is also called the factual or real conditional because it is useful to talk about facts. We form this conditional by using the simple present tense in both clauses. Some uses of this conditional are to express facts, to talk about general truths, to talk about routines and habits. This is useful to express that under certain conditions you would do this and this is your routine. We also use it to talk about rules and laws, and we also use it to give suggestions and instructions. Other uses of the zero type conditional are to talk about superstitions, proverbs, preferences, and to make requests. Now the first type conditional is also called the probable future conditional because it is useful to talk about events that might happen in the future. We use the simple present tense in the dependent clause, and in the main clause we use will or the future simple. The uses of the first type conditional are to talk about warnings and threats, to make promises or offers, and to give advice and directions. Other less common uses are to make predictions, to talk about future plans, the same function as the simple future, to make negotiations, and to make polite requests. Now this is the basic information of the zero type conditional and the first type conditional. Let's now review some details. First, you can invert the position of the clauses. You just have to be careful with the placement of the comma. You can also use other clause makers instead of if. For example, in the zero type conditional, you can use when to express that there is certainty that an event will happen. You can also use less, that it will be equivalent to if not. In this case, unless I wear my glasses would be if I do not wear my glasses. You can also use whenever. And in the first type conditional, you can use when, unless. You can also use as soon as, before, and until. Another aspect is that you can make conditional sentences negative. You can also make them interrogative. You just have to be careful that the if clause is not the one carrying on the question or the question mark. And you can also use imperatives in the zero type conditional. To continue, let's see some other important details related to grammar and these two type conditional sentences. First, we can use modals in the zero type conditional. Let's remember that modals are useful to express ability, necessity, or permission. And if we accompany a modal and the main verb in the conditional sentences, we can use either the modals on the if clause or in the result clause, and there will not be any problem. You can also use modals in the first type conditional, as let's remember that the first type conditional is to talk about probable future events, and modals such as going to, might, and might are useful to talk about future possibilities, so they are perfect. Now, something interesting about conditional sentences is that in some cases you can use other tenses. For example, in the zero type conditional, even though it is not too common, you can use other present tenses such as the present perfect tense, and the present continuous. In the first example of the present perfect continuous, we are talking about a routine. That's a function of the zero-type conditional. And in the second example, we're talking about a general truth, also a function of the zero-type conditional. So you see, we can use other present tenses in the zero-type conditional. Now I just want to add some extra information of a function that is possible in the zero-type conditional, but it is rarely used. Now the zero-type conditional can be used to talk about past habits and past routines. This is possible by writing down the two clauses in the past tense. And as we are talking about a routine and a past habit, this cannot be classified as either the first, the second, or the third type conditional. That's why we say that the zero type conditional can be used to talk about past habits and past routines. But this is rarely used, as I said before. Now, other tenses can also be used in the first type conditional, like the present perfect and the present continuous also. If you notice, the examples expresses the same functions of the first type conditional, so that's why it is possible. Now, to summarize, we use the zero type conditional to talk about things that are always true, generally true, or are always a consequence of something else. We use the simple present in both clauses. This is the standard use of the zero type conditional, and we can also use modals with the conditions I explained before. Now, the first type conditional, it is used to talk about a probable future event or result, and you use the future simple tense in the result clause. Now guys, this will be everything on the explanation of the zero type conditional and first type conditional. Now it's time for you to do some exercises. I will show you some sentences. You have to write down the verbs in parentheses, either in the simple present tense or in the future simple tense. You have to be careful in which form you write the verbs, because there are sentences that are first type conditional and other sentences that are zero type conditional. Pause the video, write down the sentences, solve it, and when you are ready, let's check the answers. Now these are the solved sentences. Check your answers. How many did you get right? If you have any questions or doubts, you can write them down in the comments and I will be answering your questions. Now to finish, and for you to have more practice, I will assign a homework assignment. I will share with you some situations. What you will have to do is to write a sentence, either the zero type conditional or first type conditional, depending on the details of the situation. You have to be careful and to pay attention. This is the example. I wrote down the following sentence. If you don't do your homework, you'll be in trouble. I decided to use the first type conditional because in the situation I have a future time, tomorrow. Here I have the explanation. So, for each of the situations I will share with you, I want you to write the sentence using either the zero or first type conditional and an explanation on why. Now guys, this will be everything for the video. Thanks for watching and I hope you have learned about the conditionals. Bye bye!